All right, guys, before we jump back into the show, I got to tell you about something that's near and dear to my heart, and that's looking like $1,000,000 without spending $1,000,000.
If you're listening to the Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling podcast, you're already a top-tier wrestling fan. You care about the history, you care about the storytelling, you care about who really won that promo battle.
So why not dress like it?
Over at Pro Wrestling Tees, you can grab the official Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling merch. And buddy, this isn't some fly-by-night cheap print situation.
We're talking soft, comfortable tees,
Clean, bold designs.
the kind of shirt that works at a live show, a meetup, or your weekly pay-per-view watch party.
And here's the thing. When you rock the logo, you're not just wearing a shirt, you're repping the show. You're part of the conversation, and you're part of the community.
So do me a favor.
Right now, open up that browser.
Search Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling on Pro Wrestling Tees.
Grab the shirt. Maybe grab two. One for you, one for the tag partner in your life.
Support the podcast, support the brand.
And look like you belong in the front row while you're doing it.
All right, let's get back to the show.
Welcome back to the Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling podcast, the show where wrestling isn't just something we watch, it's something we live, debate, laugh about, and celebrate every single week. Whether you're here for the biggest names in the business or the hidden gems grinding their way through the independent scene, you're in the right place. And today, we've got another great one. As part of our Summer Indie Spotlight series, we're sitting down with someone whose voice has become instantly recognizable across Pennsylvania wrestling and combat sports. He's the guy who knows exactly how to raise the energy in the building before the first bell ever rings.
That's right. This week's guest is Drew Shannon, a two-time Pennsylvania Association of Broadcasters award winner whose career stretches far beyond professional wrestling. When he's not behind the microphone and radio, you can find him introducing the stars of 814 Wrestling, Honorary Wrestling Federation, and 247 Fighting Championships. And he's recently lent his voice to Ultimate Duel Championship Wrestling in Warren, Pennsylvania. He's seen independent wrestling from one of the best seats in the house, the center of the ring with a microphone in hand. And tonight we're finding out what it takes to become one of the most respected voices in the business.
We'll talk about his journey from award-winning broadcaster to one of the busiest ring announcers in the region, what it's like balancing wrestling and MMA events, the unforgettable moments he's witnessed firsthand, and why independent wrestling continues to be one of the most passionate communities in sports. Plus, we'll have plenty of stories, a few laughs, and maybe even learn what goes through the mind of a guy who has to keep his composure while absolute mayhem is breaking loose around him.
So settle in, because whether you've heard Drew introduce your favorite wrestler, your favorite fighter, or this is your first time hearing his story, you're about to get a behind-the-scenes look at a side of the business that doesn't always get the spotlight, but absolutely deserves it.
This is another edition of our Summer Indie Spotlight series.
Let's ring the bell. Welcome, Drew Shannon.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Great. How are you?
Doing wonderful. I think at the time we're speaking, I'm in the midst of a move, so my place is a little disheveled. This is about the best spot I could pick for the interview today. So,
Well, you could have fooled us. It looks great in there. Super
well,
professional.
this is like the one room that is. So,
That's awesome. Well, for our fans that might be meeting you for the first time, who are ya?
who am I? Well, I'm Drew effing Shannon. I'm your favorite ring announcer's favorite ring announcer. I grew up in Warren, Pennsylvania, worked in local radio for many years, moved to State College about 21 years ago, and started working in local radio at that point for 105.9 The Buzz, which eventually became 105.9 Joe FM, which became 105.9 Quick Rock. I got involved in indie wrestling in 2010 and have been a ring announcer in one form or another ever since for 16 years.
I think it's fun to watch you at shows because, like, not only are you a ring announcer, but you're a commentator. And so, like, in some instances, like when we went to the baseball game a couple weeks ago, it was like you're keeping the whole show running. You're like here, you're there, you're behind, the booth, sort of. So,
well, I will say this. I would say Mike Edwards keeps things a little more running than I do when it comes to commentary. But you got to keep the show going when you're the ring announcer. I mean, you are basically the hype man for the crowd, for the promotion rather. you're the one who gets the crowd motivated and up and moving and all that.
So Drew, what first sparked your love for professional wrestling?
When I was really young, I'm going to be honest, I don't remember how old I was. Uh, we were flipping through channels one day at home, and my dad landed on an Erie television station, WICU TV 12, and they would show wrestling on Saturday afternoons. And being as young as I was, I had been like 6 or something like that. I didn't quite understand what was going on at the time. Muhammad Ali was huge, and that was, the boxing was a huge sport, and I thought it was boxing. So there was these two guys in the ring, and one of them had a green tongue, and I'm like, Dad, a boxer's got a green tongue. Come to find out later on in life, it was George Animal Steel. So that was my introduction to wrestling, all of about 5 minutes. Fast forward to about 1983, and I just sat down and started watching it on the local Saturday morning shows and stuff like that. I really got into it, and um, was a huge fan of Hulk Hogan, and even bigger fan of Roddy Piper, the Samoans, Rocky Johnson and Tony Atlas. I mean, all of those wrestlers in the 80s. I was just hooked. Went to my first wrestling match, I think, in late '84. Went to my first live event um, with my dad, my family, and my dad would take me all the time. And then eventually, as I got older, my buddies would go, and we just absolutely loved it. The spectacle, the larger than life individuals that are involved, it's just amazing. I was hooked.
80s wrestling is definitely Steve's era. He like even like to go to sleep at night, he'll watch, old 80s wrestling because he loves it so much.
I think I'm going to be, might not be a popular opinion. I think it's the best era, to be perfectly honest. I absolutely, even if it was a little silly, if it was a little goofy, I mean, I thought it was fantastic. I mean, it wasn't, I don't think it took itself too seriously, but yet in a way it did, because we didn't exactly know the ins and outs of the business at the time, not as much as we know today, but there was still that bit of mystery involved.
Yeah, I agree. Wrestling's evolved just like everything else, and so the moves are different now, and everything was like a little bit more simple. It felt in the 80s, but it was like I don't know, it was great. It was different. It was a spectacle, like you said. Like when you watch the old shows, you see the flashes from the cameras,
Oh yeah.
in the arena, and like it was different. And now it feels, I mean, we still watch it, we like it, but it's different for different reasons. People join the wrestling business for a ton of reasons beyond, they just love it. So yeah.
Well, wrestling always got me through a difficult time in my life, because when I was in junior high and high school, I got picked on, I got bullied. Not gonna lie, and wrestling was my refuge, and then I found friends through wrestling that we could bond over what we saw on Saturday and what was coming up to Erie and what was coming to Buffalo and everything like that. So I found a very, tight knit unit of friends that the one of which I still talk to this day. I mean, we just went to an indie show over the 4th of July in Warren that I wound up working. We'll talk about that in a little bit, because that's an interesting story. Um, but yeah, we still do. Like, over Christmas holiday, I still go up to Warren and we go out and have breakfast with my friend Rich, and we talk about wrestling and just catch up on our lives and stuff like that. So wrestling is really, it's not just a sport to me. It's a huge part of my life.
Steve has a wrestling memory for like every important event in his life since he was a little kid. So I think he probably identifies with you. Like the day we got married, we just did like a backyard wedding, nothing fancy. Then we went home and watched SummerSlam. So like every
Nice.
important moment like of his life, he has memory. Babe, you could tell him I talk a lot. So
Yeah, I mean, wrestling, that's why we wanted to start this podcast. It was just, the love for pro wrestling. I never wanted to be a wrestler. I always wanted to be involved somehow. And, now in this day and age, you can start a podcast and talk your heart out about pro wrestling every single week.
Yeah. I mean, that's the beauty of the modern era is, you've got an audience. I mean, there's people who love pro wrestling, and there are people who want more information on the individuals involved, and different takes on what you're seeing on TV and stuff like that. And podcasting has helped greatly. There's a lot out there.
So for you, being a lifelong fan, were you always interested in being behind the microphone, or, how do you find yourself being a ring announcer?
I enjoy it. I really love being a ring announcer. Like I said, it's you're the hype man. And I'm kind of like that, on the air. You want to get people involved and interested in what you're saying, and the product that you're putting out there. So it kind of goes hand in hand, the whole radio thing and ring announcing. Now, when I was a kid and was watching this stuff, I always wanted to be a manager. I didn't want to be a ring announcer. I wanted to be Bobby Heenan, Jimmy Hart, uh, Classy Freddie Blassie. I wanted to be those guys. But somehow when I first started this whole journey, it was, okay, Drew, you're going to be on commentary and you're going to help with ring announcing. I'm like, oh, okay, I can do that.
You'd be a great manager. You did a killer Jimmy Hart impression. I mean, back when Hulk Hogan died, we went to that show, and I think you were dressed like Jimmy Hart, Mouth of the South. So you did a great job. That was awesome.
Well, it helps that I'm still somewhat slender, and I know where to get the jackets from.
So throughout your years in both radio and in professional wrestling, do you feel your announcing style has changed throughout your time?
When I first started in radio, compared to now, absolutely, absolutely. I don't know if I can really explain how. it just it just has. That wow, you're asking the tough questions now. It it's difficult to explain. I think just how it has changed. I mean, when I first started, I was like 17, 18 years old, and I didn't have exactly the best way of presenting myself. I was still getting a foothold and everything. And as I grew into my more adult years and stuff like that, then I started developing a little bit more of a cadence and a style. I always kind of patterned my some of my cadence after Mean Gene. That man had a wonderful cadence, a wonderful flow, and it was just a phenomenal individual in announcing. And to this day, I'll still find myself falling into one of his type of cadences, as it were. But yeah, my announcing style definitely has progressed as the years have gone on.
Would you say that your experience and, level of comfort has, helped those changes and allowed you to, just be you?
I think so. Definitely. Because when you first get in there, you're obviously nervous. I mean, I'm used to sitting behind a microphone in a studio talking to listeners that I never see. I never see them. And occasionally when I would go out and do live broadcasts, I would see just a smattering of people. But you're at the ring announcing. Some nights you've got about, 50 to 100, maybe 200 plus people watching you and waiting for you to screw up. And they will pounce at a moment's notice once you do. But yeah, your confidence does definitely build up, and as time goes on.
You announced for both professional wrestling and MMA, is that correct?
That is correct. Yep.
Those are two, different, they're different, MMA
Yeah.
and professional wrestling. So when it's from the announcing perspective, how different is that for you? Is it similar, or is it two different worlds in terms of your style of announcing?
I As far as style of announcing, I think it's similar. I think with wrestling, I can let loose a little bit more. With MMA, I try to stay a little more professional. The prep work that goes into it is completely different. When I'm doing wrestling, I'm obviously, if there's new guys and stuff like that, I go up and I introduce myself and try to get their information, name, nicknames, weight, hometown, and that's it. For MMA, that stuff's all prepared for me. All I have to do is jot it down and boom, I'm good to go. So the prep work is a lot different. Um, the crowds are different too. Well, I don't want to say they're that different because both crowds are looking for action. They want to see a fight, and it's just one crowd. I hate to say it, one crowd the crowds know what they're getting. Let's just say that when it comes to both wrestling and MM.
If someone only knew you from one of these worlds, whether it be radio, MMA, or pro wrestling, what would surprise listeners?
They basically all go hand in hand. Radio essentially opened the door for all of this. If it wasn't for radio, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. I would probably be in northwestern Pennsylvania working some 9-to-5 job or working at working in retail or something like that, which that's not bad, but it's not what I feel I was meant to do. So I don't know. I don't know if anything would really surprise anyone. That maybe the jackets don't cost as much as they think they do. I don't know. And no, I'm not going to tell you how much they cost.
Me if they were like actually super cheap. Like to me, I'm like, wow, that probably took so long. Is it hand sequined? I watch a lot of drag queens, so I think about weird stuff like that. Like, ooh, do they hand sequin the jackets like the drag queens do their dresses? But let's dive into your radio career because, like you said, without radio, none of this would probably be possible for you. Um, Now you won 2 Pennsylvania Association of Broadcaster awards. Is that correct?
I did back to back, 2007 and 2008 for outstanding radio commercial.
It's incredible. What was the commercial about? Like, can you say what it was?
Yeah. The first one was for Number One Cycle Center, Harley Davidson. And it was based on an idea that was given to me by the owner of the station. He's like, why don't you have I was racking my brain trying to think of a creative idea for the holidays for them. And he says, why don't you have it as Santa Claus or the elves decide to get Santa Claus a Harley Davidson and the reindeer think that they're going to get replaced. And I'm like, oh, I can work with that. So I sat down and I wrote everything out and I voiced it. There are literally, I'm the voice of Santa Claus. I'm the voice of the reindeer. I'm the voice of the elf, another reindeer. I did literally like all the voices in this ad. And they were over the moon. The Harley dealership absolutely loved the commercial, and it led to us. I think that led to us getting a contract with them, and they advertised with us ever since. So, and then the other one in 2008 was. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know how I won that one. I guess I'm just that damn good. It was an ad for the local Chili's. And it was basically a board meeting where everybody was trying to think about, they were trying to brainstorm ideas about how to promote Chili's or how to promote this new product or something like that at Chili's. And they would come up with different ideas and they would get shot down. And then someone else would stop it and say, hey, well, why don't we just tell them upfront and honestly about such and blah, blah, blah. And I did, I think there was a pro wrestling aspect to it. There was a Backstreet Boys type element to it. And then it came down to this just one guy just plainly, which was my voice, like my actual voice, just plainly saying, well, why don't we just tell people about Chili's and straight up and tell them about the great specials that they have. But I did multiple voices for that one too. So that's probably why it won.
So awesome. That's exciting to, when both of those awards. How did you feel in the moment? Were you excited, surprised? Like
You have no idea. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I was over the moon. I was like, I made it. I finally made it. And I was so ecstatic, um, both times. Like the first time I did it, I was like, wow, that was awesome. Probably never going to experience that again. And then the next year I did. And it was like, you got to be kidding me. And my dad summed it up as the first time you did it, maybe you got lucky, but the second time you won, you know that you've made it. And I was like, that's a good way to put it. So, and he, they were all proud of me, and it was just a blast. It was great.
If you could travel back in time and talk to young Drew that first time he got behind a microphone, what advice would you give to him?
Save your money. Save your money. Uh, don't listen to the haters. Don't listen to the haters and the naysayers. They're only going to keep you down. Do what you want to do. Live your dream. You're going to make mistakes along the way. That's fine. Just learn from them. But never do something for someone else. You do it for you.
Good advice. You could go back and tell young Stephen Mayer that too.
All right. Well, just let me know. Let me know what the TARDIS is, and we'll rock this thing.
Have from radio have helped make you a better ring announcer.
When you're on radio, you're a little more outgoing because nobody sees you. And I think that kind of helps along in the ring announcing type thing. You're a little more outgoing, you're a little more personable and stuff like that. I think I would say that.
It helps probably not having people there, and then you can do your thing and get more confident. And then when there's people there, you're like, oh, I do it in front of thousands of people that don't see me every day. That's what I would think about it, anyways.
Exactly.
Now, this is a wrestling podcast, so let's get into the professional wrestling scene here in Pennsylvania. It has one of the richest traditions anywhere. What would you say makes this state so special when it comes to pro wrestling?
I think it's the many characters that make up this whole weird, wild world of indie wrestling, and the number of promotions that have popped up. I mean, you've got at the time there were, we had Phoenix Pro, we had Eclipse, we had AON, which is where I got my start. AON and Eclipse melded into 814 Wrestling. You've got 2PW, you've got RWA, you've got I think 880, I think it's called. You've got Imagine, you've got HWF. I mean, there's so many organizations out there giving young people who want to become a wrestler an opportunity to do so. I think that's what makes it great. Just the number of organizations out there, and just the individuals willing to help, and just the characters involved. I mean, you can go to one organization and see, one guy that you like, and then go to a different one and a completely different set of characters, and maybe one or two that you've already seen. But it's just a great state to be in for professional wrestling. There's a lot of history here as well. I mean, take a look. You've got, Larry Zbyszko, Bruno Sammartino, Dominic DeNucci, Vince. This was the territory of the McMahons. We're talking, Pennsylvania, New York. This was their stronghold.
The Northeast Triangle.
Yep, exactly.
Would you say that the independent scene is getting stronger over the last few years, in our neck of the woods here in, southwestern Pennsylvania?
I would definitely say that. I think there's a lot more interest in the sport itself. And obviously the main characters in the game, WWE, TNA, AEW, have helped with that. I think there's a lot of people that are like, hey, this is pretty cool. I'd like to check this out on the, that there's this show down the block at the Armory or wherever it is. Maybe we should go check that out and see. And, that's how I think that's what's helped the business grow.
So you're with three different companies, right? Currently, you're with 814, HWF, and 247 Fighting Championships.
I also have worked with Ultimate Duel Championship Wrestling, and I'll be helping them out in November as well.
Each company is distinct and have their distinct, personalities or flavor, culture, So, it does feel like a lot of the people in 814 and other people in other promotions, there is a little overlap. But for you personally, you have four different companies that you're working with. So what's that like bringing yourself into those different environments? Is it much different or does it feel like family everywhere you go because there are friendly faces or?
It feels like family. It really does feel like family. Every time I come to the locker room in 814 Wrestling, they're the individuals that I look for that I meld with, and I try to get along with everyone. HWF, I walk in through the doors and just greeted with open arms. When I step foot in Sunny Days Arena in North Versailles for 247 Fighting Championships, all of the team members are always like, Drew, what's going on? Like it's like I just got invited to a buddy's house, basically, and the same goes for Ultimate Duel. It's like you're going to a friend's house to go hang out, and maybe like when you were a kid, you go to a buddy's house and play around. So it's kind of like that, like going to a friend's house and playing.
So, like in corporate America or any 9 to 5 job, each company has their own thing and their own rules, and don't do this, don't do that. If you work in a coffee shop, you can't work for another one, that kind of thing. So, in the wrestling community, it seems like it's different. Do you feel the same way? Like you can be in different places and nobody's worried about like their trade secrets or anything like that?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
I mean, if that wasn't the case, I'd only be in 814. I wouldn't be allowed to go to HWF or wherever. I wouldn't be. I don't know if it would be the same for MMA. I wouldn't be allowed to do that. But no, it's very. At least the organizations that I work in, I know there are certain organizations that have basically told talent that they are not allowed to work for certain organizations because certain individuals work there, which I think is it's bullshit. I think it's fucking bullshit because I think you're limiting your talent uh, to you know I guess you're holding your talent back, I should say, from experiencing new things and new companies and making a name for themselves. If you stay in one place the whole time, you're never going to grow. You have to branch out. You have to experience new things and new promotions and new organizations and stuff like that. You don't want to remain stagnant. If this is something you want to do, then get yourself out there. But but no, I've never experienced that problem whatsoever in my time.
What do you think that young Hulkamaniac from 1984 would say if he saw you doing the announcing for all these promotions?
I don't think he'd say anything. I think he'd be too awestruck and probably be shitting in his pants.
Be like, wow, that's me.
Like, that's me? Wow. I
When
gotta hit
these
the gym.
when these new companies or new opportunities present themselves to you, do you still get those butterflies and that excitement and that energy rush?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it happened more in MMA than it did in wrestling, really. I mean, initially in wrestling, like your first night doing a ring announcing job, yeah, you're going to get butterflies and all that. There was one night in RWA, I was substituting for their ring announcer. It was a few years ago, and I came out and I was trying to get the crowd all riled up and everything like that, and going, "Hey, everybody, what's going on? How are you doing tonight?" And some guy in the crowd yells out, "Who the hell are you?" And I said, "Well, good thing you asked. I'm Drew Shannon. I'll be your ringer announcer tonight." And he goes, "You suck." And I just turned. I said, "And you swallow." Boom.
Yes.
That was it. Crowd lost it, and I had them in the palm of my hand that night. It was phenomenal. But yeah, it was just insane. It was crazy.
Feel like if somebody would have been like if somebody said that You could have been like, I'm your mom's new boyfriend or
Oh yeah.
something totally about his mom.
Somebody asked me where my suit was when I did UDCW, Ultimate Duel Championship Wrestling. Somebody was like, "Where's your suit?" And I was not quick on my game. Otherwise, I would have said, "It's at your mom's house. I'll pick it up later." Might not recognize her when you get home. I shaved her back.
Yes.
So independent wrestling feels like a community. And, we see the same faces when we go to the shows, and there's a level of comfort. Do you feel that same feeling when you're backstage at these shows?
Yeah, there's definitely a level of community. Definitely, I guess there kind of has to be because you've got a couple of guys in the ring that have to get along on somewhat of a level in order to get in there and tell the story because you're basically putting your trust in that other individual to get you both through the match, I guess. So there, but yeah, I've always found a sense of community, a sense of family, wherever I've gone, be it 814 HWF or wherever.
Do you feel like the experience is similar in the MMA community, or does it feel a little bit different?
Um, well, MMA is a different animal altogether. I don't get to go back into the locker room area and chit chat with the guys and stuff like that. I will once I get into the building, I'll either get changed in my outfit or I'm already in my outfit and I'll get to cage side and I'll bullshit with the commission for a little bit. And then I'll get my notes ready. I'll talk to the matchmakers and the promoters. If there's any changes on the card or anything like that, they'll let me know, and they let me know when to get in the cage when the broadcast starts, and then we're off to the races. So yeah, it's a little bit it's a little bit different. I think there is a sense of family there though as well. I mean, especially afterwards we'll all go chill out at the after party upstairs in Sunny Days Arena and hang out. Well, it's just all bullshit and everything like that. And it's just, it's nice. You're amongst friends.
I feel like if I were doing ring announcing for the MMA, like some fights are extremely bloody and the mat just gets like obliterated.
Oh
I'd
yeah.
be like, I gotta ditch my shoes after this because the mat's so gross.
I've had to step around my fair share of blood, believe me, and it's not a pretty sight. But they try to get that cleaned up as quickly as possible.
You've been doing ring announcing in Pennsylvania for independent wrestling and everything like that. How did you end up at 247 doing announcing for MMA? How did you kind of make that switch?
Well, while we were doing AON in the latter years of that promotion, as things were kind of winding down, unbeknownst to us, uh, the owners of AON were also starting their own MMA organization, Complete Devastation MMA out of Altoona, and they were doing shows at Altoona, and I think we did one in Johnstown, if I'm not mistaken, and a very close friend of mine who I'd met through the radio station, Albert Miller. He was very much into MMA, and they wanted him to be a part of it, a part of that organization. I'm like, well, let's bring Drew in as a ring announcer. Why not? So they brought me in to ring announce, and then Albert and I would do commentary. Um, and then as the years went on, the company was sold to different entities, and then the company just basically dissolved. The promotion ended. It was kind of an unceremonious ending. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but I think it was one night where a card completely fell apart and they just stopped promoting altogether. Albert and I went on to do a TV show called the MMA Rundown, which was the name was a tribute to the AON Rundown because we were sad to see that go, but this was now the MMA rundown instead of the A1 rundown. So we would talk about regional organizations and stuff like that, and then That show was eventually canceled, and Albert decided we're going to take this to YouTube. So we started a thing called Cage Nation TV, and that's where the ball kind of got rolling for us to get into the Pittsburgh scene. Albert always wanted to promote um, the local scene just the local scene in our area, but also expand to regional as well. So Greensburg, Pittsburgh, and whatnot. And we got invited to a number of events to cover. Um, and eventually, Albert wound up moving to North Carolina, where he continued on covering the scene down there. I was kind of out of that type of thing at that point, but he kept going on for a little while longer. That was his passion. He absolutely loved it. Um, and then eventually, I was still doing, I got back into professional wrestling and all that, ring announcing and commentary and whatnot. And then eventually, there was this organization that had contacted me, Ryan Middleton, that said, "Hey, we were told um, by a couple of guys that you would be a great ring announcer. We're looking for a ring announcer for our organization. And we were wondering if you would like to be a part of that, if you could send us some tape or something like that." And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And I can't remember if I sent him anything or not. I don't think I had anything on file, to be honest. And I think he found some stuff online, and he was like, "Oh yeah, we want you to come down." So I came down to their first event, and I've been working with them ever since. Um, I think that was 2018, 2019. I think it was 2019 when we started. We were supposed to do our third show in 2020. That got shut down by COVID, but I've been doing it ever since. And unfortunately, I'd always wanted Albert to be a part of what we were doing in Pittsburgh because he loved the scene so much. It had been very good to us, and he'd been very good to it. Unfortunately, this past year, Albert passed away at his home in North Carolina, so he never got to be a part of that up here. But I always like to think that whatever I'm doing in the world of MMA or whatever I'm doing in wrestling, that he's looking down and watching. In fact, I paid tribute to him at our last show at 247, kind of just before the main event, kind of a impromptu thing. I mean, I don't want to say impromptu because I had it all prepared. I had an entire speech prepared and everything like that, but had to pay tribute to the guy that helped get me into this in the first place, along with Mike Kessling and Jason Davis. Albert was a huge influence on me getting into MMA, and if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't. I dare I say I would not be at 247 Fighting Championships. So I owe the guy a lot, and I miss him very, very much.
Were you always a fan of MMA, or was it, hey, I got an opportunity, let me try this out?
I think it was more of an opportunity, let's try this out type thing. We had watched the early, my buddy Rich and I had watched a couple of the original UFC. We're talking Ultimate Fighting Championships before we called it UFC. We're talking about Ultimate Fighting Championships, Ultimate Fighting Championships 2, where I think there were only 3 rules at the time. And if I recall correctly, I think he'd still hit a guy in the balls, but I could be wrong.
No weight classes either.
See, this is where I need Albert here. I don't know why the hell he had to up and leave us. I needed him for this interview. I love you, Albert. But yeah, it was more of a let's try it and see. And I'll be honest, I'm still not knowledgeable in MMA as I am in wrestling. But again, I got to give credit to Albert. He helped me out in understanding certain aspects of the sport. So he was a great influence on what what I'm doing now. So, but yeah, it was more like a let's give it a shot. And plus, it was an opportunity to hang with my buddies. It was an opportunity to hang with your friends and stuff like that and do something different.
MMA, I don't know really anything about MMA. We watch fights sometimes when they come on, but UFC is kind of like the top dog, and then there's been a handful of other smaller companies. But when it comes to would it be considered like an independent, like wrestling is, professional and indies or whatever. Is it like that when it comes to MMA or what's the
I,
differentiation there?
you know what? That's a very good question. You've got obviously the big dog in the UFC. At the time, there was Bellator, there was Pride, there are a whole host of organizations. The one that you hear the most about, though, if at all, the one you hear about is UFC. I don't know if I would call them independent promotions per se. I've always stuck to the term of regional promotions when it came to MMA. When it came to wrestling, yeah, they were indie feds. They were independent promotions. But I don't know if you could put the same handle. I'm sure somebody will be able to correct me and say, yeah, sure, why not? But it's just I don't know. I've always preferred to use the term regional promotions when it comes to MMA.
Makes sense. I mean, they are two different things, but
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how that works, like what it's considered.
I'll be honest. I
Okay.
don't. I don't. I don't know either. So
Good thing we're not an MMA podcast.
So for MMA, I do notice that, people are doing a lot more of the mixed martial arts, like there's places all over, the country where you can learn how to do that. And so it's kind of cool to hear, 247 is, close and local to us
they're in the Pittsburgh area. They're in
in the Pittsburgh area.
we have our own arena out there. It's Sunny Days Arena at the venue. It's in North Versailles, which is just outside of Pittsburgh, outside of Monroeville.
And how many shows do you guys usually do a year for 247?
We do I believe every other month. So we've got the one coming up on the 1st, August 1st, and then we have another one coming up in September, and then another one in November. So sometimes they'll run. It depends. Sometimes they'll run shows, back to back months, but other times it's normally just once a month now. There's other things other than MMA, the mixed martial arts that they're involved in. They have a grappling tournament, a nogi submission grappling coming up this Saturday. Um, and they're involved, very much involved in stuff like that. But then the building itself, cheap plug for Sunny Days Arena, it's a multifaceted building where they've had comedy acts, they've had concerts, they have had wrestling, they've had Rise Wrestling in there. I think they have had I think it's called Only Wrestlers, if I'm not mistaken. I know they've had midget wrestling. They've had Armored MMA, which if you haven't seen that, holy shit. If you love the Ren Fair and you love MMA, you got the best of both worlds right there. It's insane. So
Like medieval MMA, like suits and armors.
literally suits of armor and swords and you name it. And yeah, they had to convince literally had to convince the Pennsylvania State Athletic Commission to let them in and do it. Our guys at 247. And the Athletic Commission was like, okay. And I believe that they were the first, I want to say they were the first in Pennsylvania to hold an event like that. So, and
It's like
if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'd like to think that we were the first.
it's like live action Game of Thrones.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like, minus the dragons and all that shit.
Probably the Pennsylvania Commission was like, no, no go on the dragons, but armor's fine.
You let me talk to my buddies at the commission on maybe a small dragon or something like that. Maybe a
Excellent.
newt. Maybe a newt.
Do you remember the first time you ever announced somebody and who was it?
I was actually doing a guest spot for 105.9 Quick Rock. We were promoting AON. I think it was Behold the Pale Horse, I think it was. We still joke about that title to this day. And it was at the State College High School gymnasium. I went in and I just did, just did a basic intro, welcoming everyone to the show, thanking everyone for being there, thanking everyone for listening to Quick Rock. There was about 15 to 20 people in the entire building. It wasn't a huge audience, but it was it was still, it was an audience. We got to perform. When I did get in to do a spot, a ring announce, later on in the evening, they were like, go ahead and introduce, So I went in and it was, I'm trying to think who it was now. I know it was Shane Malice. It was Shane Malice and Randall Fairway. That's who it was, Shane Malice and Randall Fairway. So I'll never forget that because I think was Shane was the face, and he took the microphone from me before I could give Randall his introduction, and basically badmouthed him, put him down. And then I got the microphone back, and I just went into business for myself. I said, no, 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 no. I said, you're not going to be doing that. I said, I will announce this man with the respect that he deserves. Ladies and gentlemen from Salem, Massachusetts, Randall Fairway. And then I walked out and then just sat back at the commentator's booth with X, the commentator's booth. I don't think we were doing any commentary. We were just sitting there. And that was the first day I met the X band too, which that's a day I'll never forget. It was two radio guys meeting for the very first time. And it was just from that moment, I just love that guy. Just phenomenal.
Oh.
Even though now he's a bit of a jerk to us in 814 wrestling. I think power's gone to his head a little bit.
He's hungry
still
with power. Mad with rage.
He's hungry, all right, but I'm sure it's for power. No, I kid. I seriously, I love X. I love X and Edwards and Doc. X and Edwards and I have been doing this since, I've been doing this since May of 2010 with them. And we've always been, close friends. We do the trivia nights every Wednesday with X, and we always have a blast.
I know he was so fun to have on the pod. Like he could direct the whole interview on his own. Like he's just so great. Like he has so many stories. He's ready to talk. Like it was a pleasure to have him on. So
I know. I wish I could do the same thing. I'm not an X man or anything like that. No, he is. I listened to that podcast, and there were things that I heard, that I didn't even know. I didn't know he met Paul Heyman backstage at an ECW show. I didn't know anything about the ECW incident where they had them at the Jaffa and they were never going to come back. I was like, wow. I'm like, you learn something new every day.
Funny. Now, in announcing, you'll get new people, obviously, new wrestlers all the time. Is there like a one wrestler whose name that like you stumbled over every single time?
Ooh, the one that comes to mind, I was actually talking to Artie Mosh about it this morning. I was watching back an old video, a video package that I was doing for AON. It was for Old School, and it was the same event that Sons of Mifflin County debuted as a tag team on the show. There was another tag team that was there, and it was Never Fall. And for some reason, I kept calling them Never Fail. And nobody corrected me. I think Zach Rain corrected me after the match. Because I kept saying, and, Zach Rain, John Roden, the team of Never Fail. And it's Never Fall. And like somebody could at least set me hip to that. I think there was, I'm trying to think if there was somebody else. I think it was in 2PW that I accidentally called Tito Ortiz. And I'm like, he just leaned into me and goes, you said Tito Ortiz. Shit. Okay. Well, I'll get it right later. Trust me. And I can't remember who it was. It was Tito something. I can't remember. And it sucks because I should know this, but yeah, I think those are the only two that offhand that I remember.
I always, POV, the tag team, they're going to be our guests here in a few weeks. And
Oh, nice.
I'm always like point of view, but it's not point of view. I always get it wrong, but I have to practice to get it right because they're going to be on the pod and I can't be like, and it's POV, point of view.
Yep.
Proof of vision.
Proof of vision.
Yes.
Those guys showed up and showed out at Ultimate Duel Championship Wrestling. They had a one-on-one match over the 4th of July, and there's something I never thought I'd see. And it was just I think that was the opening bout, and that was incredible. It was just a fantastic match for them.
I'll definitely have to check that out. I mean, we like to watch, we try to do research and watch matches of wrestlers that we're going to have on because a lot of people are new to us too. And that's like the whole goal of this indie spotlight is for us to meet new wrestlers and for also like us to introduce them to our listeners. Like we're not huge, but we want, people to see independent wrestlers.
What do you think the future looks like for independent wrestling in Pennsylvania?
I think sky's the limit. The sky is the limit. I think it has a promising future. A lot of great talent is out there. Uh, you've got guys like Daniel Exotic, who's done some pretty awesome things. Aaron Connors, Ace Connell in HWF, RD Mosh with Pitchick Danny Lair. Fantastic. And I'm not just mentioning their names because they have a casserole dish that I need to get back from them sometimes. Um, you've got I'm trying to think of some other names. Obviously you've got Surge, you've got D Savage. These guys have been around for not a long time, but they are really making names for themselves. Tremendous athletes, and with individuals like those and those willing to help the younger talent and stuff like that, I think the future is very bright.
What's something fans don't realize about being a ring announcer?
The amount of water that you really have to drink in order to keep your voice hydrated, it is insane. You guys have probably seen me. I've got I'll have my Terrifier Art the Clown gigantic tumbler full of water that I will get loaded up before I leave for Altoona or before I leave for Johnstown. I will have to fill that back up again before the night is out. I did when I did Ultimate Duel Championship Wrestling. That was let me preface this story. I talked to the ring announcer prior to the show about maybe, I talked to the promoters and all of that too about coming in and doing, working with them. And he said, well, at some point maybe we could swap you out. Not tonight because I'm taking care of it, but maybe at another time. I'm like, okay. So my buddies and I are sitting, we're watching the matches, we're having a good time. Midway through the second match, I hear a voice behind me and he goes, hey, are you the guy that I talked to outside earlier? I turned around, it was him. I said, about ring announcing? He says, yeah. He says, can you take care of the next match for me? I think I'm going to have, he says, I think I've got heat stroke. This is outside. It is a 95 plus degree day with a heat index of 100. This guy is sweating. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I'll do it. So I go in the back and he gives me the information and stuff like that. I'm dressed in my street clothes. I am not dressed as the Drew F. and Shannon that you guys know. I'm dressed in literally a Drew F. and Shannon t-shirt, camo shorts, and a ball cap. So I was not prepared for this. I get up there and I come out and this is my hometown crowd. This is in Warren, Pennsylvania, where I grew up and born and raised for 34 years. I go out there and I just knock it out of the park. Microphone dies. And I'm like, battery's dead. And I looked, I'm like, no, the microphone's on. What's going on? And there's nothing. There's no sound. The PA is done. Apparently, because it was sitting out in the heat too long and the equipment got fried. So they had to scramble to try to find a PA system or microphone or something like that. I'm like, well, I guess we're going to have to do this the old-fashioned way. Set the microphone down. Ladies and gentlemen, our next bout scheduled for one fall. Introducing first. And I literally had to project. I had to yell. I mean, a little bit louder than I normally do. And I did that for I think I did that for 2 matches until they found a backup PA or something like that. That's just stuff you have to be prepared for. If the microphone goes out, you just have to, the show must go on. You have to just roll on with it. But yeah, I don't think they know they might not even know the prep work that goes into what we do. Because yeah, we still have to do research as well. I'll go through YouTube to try to find guys matches to find out information on them. And then of course I will go backstage and make sure that information is correct and everything like that. It's not just handed to me in wrestling. Now, like I said, MMA, different story. They've got everything ready to go for me, and God love them for it, because that's a lot of stuff. Fight day in MMA is very hectic. In MMA, because guys are, you've got weigh-ins, you've got meetings with the athletic commission. They're doing piss tests. There's tons of stuff that goes on. You can't be bothering, or at least you try not to bother anybody, any of the fighters backstage. All that stuff's ready for me. Wrestling, different story. Just go back and ask. But I think the prep work, to be prepared for any situation that arises, and the amount of water you need to drink.
So for when you're meeting new wrestlers, then so you have to gather like their name, the name they like to be called in the ring, or their nicknames, their weights, their hometowns. Well, what other things, or like if I mean, on AEW or WWE, like sometimes the wrestler will be like, "Wait, stop," and then whisper in their ear, and they do a special, entrance for them. Like, what sort of information do you collect from them to announce for them?
The only thing I really get is just if I'll know their name beforehand. Obviously, it'll be on the run sheet. I will just get you know your weight, specific hometown, and is there any specific way you want to be introduced? Is there a nickname? Is there, do you want me to say something? Uh, Pastor CeeLo had me read this. It was like reading War and Peace, but God love him, it was one of the best intros for him I have ever seen. It was so long, but you kind of got to do it. I mean, it's Pastor CeeLo. You got to do it in kind of like a preacher type voice, and you have to get into it. You gotta get the voice out there. You gotta let the people know. You know, only
I
thing was
love
missing was
that.
only thing was missing was a tambourine and some lady with a Salvation Army bell ringing in the corner. So
Seriously, oh my God, people are passing out, speaking in tongues at this ring announcing.
they've got collection plates going. No, Silu actually, I think, had a collection plate at one time.
Let's get into some quick hitters here.
Quick hitters.
So, Drew, favorite wrestling voice of all time?
Mean Gene Okerlund. Absolutely love the guy. I got the chance to meet him at a Mean Gene Burgers opening at Chautauqua Mall in Lakewood, New York, and he was just such a sweet guy. I told him at the time he was doing a WCW. I guess you would say it's not really a podcast, but they would do like a pre-show on the internet before Nitro. And I told him how much I loved it. He's like, "We don't hold anything back, do we, son?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "I do appreciate it. Thank you very much for the kind words. It does mean a lot to me. I really appreciate it." So he walked off. They were getting ready to take him away. And I'm like, "Gene, can I get a picture with you?" He says, "For you, sir, it would be an honor." And I was just like so starstruck. I was like meeting one of my childhood heroes. I was like, oh. So me and my friend Mark, we got our picture taken with him and shook his hand. He's like, "Gentlemen, take care. Have a great day." And he walked off, and I'm like, that voice is just so incredible.
Yeah,
He never lost it
my
either.
favorite.
He never lost it. I mean, when he died, yeah, but obviously, but
Yeah,
he took
I
it.
mean,
He took it with him. He didn't lose it.
he sure did. Can't take much, but he took that. Um, in terms of ring announcers, who's your all-time favorite?
Ooh, um, there are so many that I really enjoy. Howard Finkel, uh, Gary Michael Capetta, Lillian Garcia, phenomenal. And I don't know the name of the Steve. I don't know if you know or not. There was an announcer before before Howard Finkel that would do Wrestling Superstars. And it wasn't, I know Gary Michael Capetta did it as well, but there was an announcer, he was just very introducing in this corner, weighing in at 210 pounds. You know, it just something about the guy's voice. I thought to this day, I think is phenomenal. But if I had to choose one, I would definitely say the late great Howard Fink.
Yeah, I always love watching old like early 80s wrestling, and you would see the Harrisburg shows, and that was what they called the monsoon loop. And Gary Michael Capetta was the ring announcer there, where Finkel would always do the New York shows. So he stayed with Vince and Capetta stayed with Monsoon.
There we go. I never do that.
He's a wealth of knowledge. He's got a lot in there about wrestling.
Awesome.
As a music lover, like you mentioned, if you were being introduced to the ring and there's no copyright law and you could have any song, what would be your entrance song?
Well, right now it's actually Chris Jericho. It's well, rather Fozzy. If you want to, or do you want to start a war? If you've heard my intro, you hear Chris Jericho introduce me as the sexiest beast in. Hey, it's Chris Jericho, Fozzy. You're listening to Drew Shannon, the sexiest beast in Pennsylvania. That came from an interview that I did with him. Fozzy was part of our 45th anniversary concert at Quick Rock, and with Theory of a Dead Man. Oh my God, what were the Wayland was another one of the bands, and I can't. Three Pill Morning, that's who it was. And as soon as I found out that Fozzy was on the bill, I'm like, screw everybody else. I'm like, get me some fucking time with Chris Jericho. I was his, I guess you would say, his chauffeur to and from the studio. So we wound up taking my boss's car because my car was a piece of shit. And they kind of wanted to impress him a little bit. I mean, hers wasn't a Rolls Royce either, but it was a lot better than mine. So we got to drive him to the studio, and I got to interview him, and he signed some autographs, and got to drive him back. That's just, if you guys want to have me back on another time, that's a story for another day. My God, that was incredible. But if I had to choose aside from that, I would say Marilyn Manson. There are several songs, Beautiful People. I think that's just like that song just gets you going. It gets you up and moving. But there's another song of his, it's called, no, there's a couple of songs of his that, the one in particular we can't use. I mean, copyright issues is, if there was no copyright issues, fine, but we tried to keep it family friendly. And I know in the state of Pennsylvania, they're strict about using objectionable lyrics in entrance music. But I would say this is the new shit. Mob Scene, or I think it's called it. I don't know if it's called Saint. It's the S is in parentheses and it's ain't. One of the lines is hold the S because I am an ain't. I don't know why. Just songs from the golden age of grotesque. I think I would, I'd be more than happy.
Do you have a favorite MMA fighter introduction?
That's a toughie. I would say Ethan the Wolverine Goss, primarily because when I went to go introduce him one time, he comes up to me, he says, Drew, there's a big match for me. I want you to give me your full Paul Heyman. And I'm like,
let's hear it. Let's hear it.
I wish I had his stats in front of me. I'll try to I'll muddle through it as best I can. Ladies and gentlemen, weighing in at 200 something pounds, he is your reigning, defending, undisputed 247 Fighting Championships champion, Ethan the Wolverine Goss.
Awesome.
And that's not Paul Heyman, but reigning, defending, undisputed. I'm like, he's like, that's exactly what I wanted. I'm like, okay, great, thanks, because I don't sound a damn thing like Paul Heyman.
feel like
So-
you got to get the jowl wiggle. Like he doesn't. Obviously, that's like an over
I'm
exaggeration of Paul
trying to
Heyman.
trying
But
to
he's
control
like,
the jowls. I mean, you know,
he's like the rating. I
it's
think of anyways.
I would say more of the inflection. It's the reigning, defending, undisputed. So that's I go for more for the inflection of anything.
Yeah.
If you could choose any event to announce, whether it's wrestling, MMA, your choice, what event would you want to announce?
Ooh, there are so many, and you know that I would have to go for the obvious. I would have to go for WrestleMania. Um, that would be the dream gig. I mean, it would have to be. Um, when I mean, honestly, WrestleMania was the dream gig, but really, the dream was to get the opportunity to, and I didn't even know it was going to be given the opportunity until 2 matches in, to be given the opportunity to work a night for my hometown, to have my best friend of 40 plus years that I, bonded over wrestling. Ever since the 5th grade, we've been best friends, and just to stand out there and have him witness that was like the ultimate honor. Thing about that show is I paid $15 to get in, and then I wound up working the show. It was the only show that I had to pay to work. It was weird, but I didn't mind because they're just starting out, and I'm like, oh hell yeah, I'm not going to ask for a refund. That was awesome. It was incredible.
That's so fun.
If you could go back and replace any of the announcers for any of the previous 42 WrestleManias, is there one specific WrestleMania you would have been like, wow, I'd love to have done that one?
Ring announce?
Yep.
Say the first one.
Mm.
Uh, if I could go to WrestleMania 8 and kick Ray Combs out of the ring and do his spot for that one shot, because I was there live.
Oh,
And
wow.
there was more. I think the videos and all that were edited on that, because it seemed like there was a lot more to that than what the TV let on. In rebroadcast, I thought it was a lot longer, and it was a lot. We were just sitting there going, just get to the fucking wrestling, for God's sake. It was so drawn out.
That was my first WrestleMania I remember watching live as a kid.
Nice. Yeah, I was there in the not the Pontiac Silverdome. Jesus, I wish I was there.
Hoosier Dome.
In the Hoosier Dome. That was a weekend. That was the weekend I got my first. I had my first credit card, and we it was me and my buddy, again, of 40 plus years. We were out there. We had tickets. I got tickets for Christmas for WrestleMania, and we were, two kids from Warren, Pennsylvania, ready to hit the huge town of Indianapolis, Indiana. We were ready to go. And what did we do? We went out to Toys R Us, bought ourselves a Super NES, and we sat there and we played fucking Super Mario and Super WrestleMania. It's like, what the hell, boys? If I would go back in time, I'd be like, guys, there are drinks to be had. There are women out there, I'm sure, that would love to ignore you because you're both geeks. There's stuff out there to do other than Super NES.
As someone who may or may not have spent a WrestleMania weekend rewatching old clips in a hotel room, I completely understand.
Not going to say
sounds like
I'm not.
us.
Not going to say it wasn't fun. I mean, because it was, absolutely. We eventually got out. We looked around Station Square. We wound up going to Hooters, having a drink. I think there was some WrestleMania activity going on, some sort of promotional activity, but none of the wrestlers were there. I think maybe a radio station was doing something that weekend, but we did get out and, at least peruse the city for a little bit. There was a White Castle down the street. We had White Castle for the first time. Tasted like absolute shit. That's the thing. I've had White Castle since, and I don't know what the hell was wrong with the White Castle in Indianapolis, Indiana, but by God, in Ohio, it's fucking phenomenal. I wish we had a White Castle here in State College.
Now, we usually ask our wrestler guests what's their post-match meal. Do you have like a post-show meal that like just really caps the night off that you're like, yes, I love this. This is what I need at the end of a night.
Um, well, normally the group of us, it just depends where everybody wants to go. Like we'll go to Primanti's. If I go to Primanti's, the sandwich choice varies, but I'll always get one of the sandwiches. Uh, Applebee's, normally I'll get fish and chips. That always hits the spot. Um, and I think there's been times where we've just gone to Rutter's and just gotten just shit food and whatever. It was a meal. We were just hungry. We'll eat anything. Um, but yeah, I'd say fish and chips at Applebee's would be my favorite.
That's
But
awesome.
Primanti Brothers is good too. I mean, you can't go wrong with a trip to P-Bros.
So, Drew, what goals are still on your bucket list as an announcer?
I don't know. Just to keep on doing what I'm doing. Maybe work for other, any other organizations that would have me and try to stay busy and, try to pick up a little extra scratch while you're while you're doing it as well. But yeah, I guess a goal would be to work for as many promotions as I can, without, and this is the tough thing, working as many promotions as I can without having to sacrifice the other ones that I'm committed to. That's always difficult.
Is there a promotion that you would love to work for someday, like one specific one you have in mind, or
I wouldn't mind working for 2PW again. They've always been, they were always, I worked for them for about a year. They were always cool. Marshall Gambino and Emily, just phenomenal individuals. I don't know really. I mean, hell, I could give you the standard answer. Oh, I'd love to work for WWE. I'd love to work for TNA or for AEW, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Not at my age. They're looking for the younger and, I guess more vibrant. Who cares if you've got a damn good voice? I mean, really. I get, yeah, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind working for, I wouldn't, I don't know so much about companies. Let's say buildings. I would love to do a show at 2300 Arena, the old ECW arena. I there was a chance for me to do that. I was working at a kickboxing group in Allentown, and they had a show coming up at 2300 Arena a few months after the one that I did. And I never heard from the promoter after that. So unfortunately, I never got to do that show. But his assistant was all about, she said, oh, we got to get you to do that show. I mean, I'd love to do the ECW arena. Are you kidding? But I would love to do a show at the ECW arena. I think that would be phenomenal.
I got to see wrestling there once. I saw a New Japan show there, and it was just cool to be inside that arena.
We always wanted to go to an ECW show there, but we had heard so many things about that section of town. They're like, you don't want to go in that area. I'm like, well, what the hell? Why not? There's a lot of gang activity. You guys go take a wrong turn, you're going to get fucked up. So I'm like, well, maybe we don't. We did get a chance to see ECW shows. We saw one in Indiana, Pennsylvania, and Jamestown, New York. But those are the only two times we. No, wait. There was, I think there was a couple in Buffalo after they went on to TNN.
Rough.
Yeah, that was some rough times there, kids.
At least Steve Carino got over. That's what mattered.
Exactly. That's, you got to look for the bright spot. Like Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers.
you listening ever wanted to get into the ring and do announcing? What's the first piece of advice you'd give them?
Don't, because I've already got the job covered, so get the hell out.
Right, just don't. I've got it. I'm great at it.
I got it. You don't need to do it. I got this shit. What advice would I give them? Watch as many. If they want to get into this, if they want to do what I do, watch as many ring announcers as possible. I mean, watch what they do. I mean, I'm not just talking the new guys, like on WWE or AEW or anything like that. Watch the old school guys as well. Pick up pick up pick up kind of what they've done in the past, their enunciation, their style, and everything like that. You don't always have to be the guy that's doesn't like the stay away from that shit because that will destroy your voice right then and there. Um, who's the guy that's doing SmackDown right now?
I don't
I can't
even know.
I can't remember the guy's name, but
Isn't it Mike Rome?
no, I don't think it's Mike Rome. Um, I don't know, but he's got that gravel in his voice every now and it's like, dude, you are going to. Vince McMahon started doing that shit after WrestleMania 6, and his voice was shot by the time it was all very and
Yeah.
just doing it right now is killing me. I mean, just it don't do that gravel shit, but definitely learn from other ring announcers, watch what they do, and but you can borrow from them. Don't completely rip them off, but take what you learn from them and make it your own. I guess if that makes any sense.
There's one
Guys,
ring announcer that
guys,
I tweeted about a couple weeks ago that I really enjoy. Sam Laterna from House of Glory out of New York City. She's really good. A little different.
nice, very nice. Like y'all think,
What a name.
like y'all think my real name is Drew Shannon. I mean, give me a fucking break. Um, that's always the question, and I'm surprised you haven't asked it. How did you come up with the name Drew Shannon? Well, there's a story real quick. I was sitting at a bar one afternoon, actually, not a night. I went in, I took a half day from work because I hated my fucking job. This was, I think I had left radio briefly, and I was working at a I don't know if you call it a factory job or what you would call it. It was just a shit job, and I decided to go and go to my local watering hole in Warren, Pennsylvania, Grumpy's, which is still there. And the bartender and we were friends, and we sat and we bullshit for a while, and I'm pounding back a few, and we start talking about. She's like, "I know you hate your job." She's like, "I know you've always wanted to do radio." She's like, She's like, "You want to get into radio?" She says, What would your name be? Would you keep your name, or would you?" I'm like, "Well, I think I'd have to go. My first name would have to be Drew, shortened from Andrew." And because in case you didn't know, that's what Drew is short for. I think my first name would be Drew, and I guess I would say my last name would have to be, I don't know. It'd have to be and I was a little tipsy at the point, but I was like, I don't know. It would have to be the first name. My last name would be the first name of my favorite bartender. So I would have to be known as Drew Shannon. Her name was Shannon. She was extremely flattered and bought me my next round. And when it came time for me to pick a name for the radio, I was like, Drew Shannon. I'm Drew Shannon. And we just went off to the races from there. And then obviously they were like, well, what are you going to do for your wrestling name? I'm like, why the hell should I switch it?
It is a good name.
I mean, why switch it? I'll be Drew Shannon through, and until I can no longer be Drew Shannon. So
Great story. I didn't even think to ask where you got I was like, it's Drew Shannon. I mean, of course we see your name on your Facebook, but I'm like, it's
yeah,
Drew Shannon. Of
it's
course.
Drew Shannon.
Why would we have to know?
It's Drew Shannon. Come on, I've got it printed on stickers and everything. So
Do you like your logo that you put on your videos? That one that you showed us.
that one,
I like that a lot.
I don't know if is that going to come across the correct way when we do this, or okay.
Yeah, it looks correct. Yeah.
Okay, because the way I'm looking at it, it's all backwards. And then of course we have these available as well.
Oh, I love that. I love
We've got the special Pride edition of the Drew F and Shannon logo, and of course the shirt is available.
Where is that?
You can get the official Drew Shannon merchandise over on TeePublic. Just search Drew Shannon, and you'll be able to find all sorts of stuff. Not just T-shirts, but stickers, hats. I mean, mugs. tote bags, banners. If you want your own Drew Shannon banner, why not?
Tapestries. You could do
Let's
tapestries there.
let your Drew Shannon flag fly. I mean, but there's all sorts of stuff, pins, and but yeah.
Why don't you hit us with your socials too, since we're talking the merch store and everything? Where can they find you on social?
You can find me on Insta at I think it's Drew3771, if I'm not mistaken. And you can find me on TikTok. Facebook, I had a Drew Shannon Facebook account. I really don't keep up with it all that much. And Twitter or X or whatever the hell we're calling it this month, I don't really. I'm not a Twitter user at all. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I'm too old for this shit. So I'm lucky to be on the TikTok. And of course, 814 Wrestling, you can see our videos and stuff like that on YouTube. You can search 814 Wrestling there and you can catch all of our videos, which I produce. So
Oh, that's awesome.
What a conversation. A huge thank you to Drew Shannon for joining us today, giving us a behind the scenes look at a life behind the microphone. Whether it's announcing for independent wrestling, calling the action for MMA, or sharing stories from his award-winning radio career, Drew reminded us that there are so many people who help make every event memorable, long before the opening bell rings.
We also want to thank all of you for tuning in and continuing to support our Summer Indie Spotlight series. One of our favorite parts of this podcast is introducing you to the incredible people who make independent wrestling and combat sports thrive, both in and out of the ring. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to show Drew some love by following his work with 814 Wrestling, Honorary Wrestling Federation, 247 Fighting Championships, and the many other promotions he's part of. Support your local independent wrestling and combat sports scene. You never know when you'll witness the next breakout star or create a memory you'll be talking about for years.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts. Those ratings and reviews help us reach more wrestling fans and continue shining a spotlight on the independent wrestling community.
You can also follow the Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling podcast on all of our social media platforms for new episodes, exclusive content, giveaways, and updates on who's joining us next. You can catch every episode on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
We've got plenty of more interviews, event previews, live reactions, and wrestling conversations coming your way. So make sure you're following along. You don't want to miss what's coming next.
Until next time, support independent wrestling, support local promotions, and never stop enjoying the sport we all love. We'll catch you on the next episode of the Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling podcast. Take care, everybody.
what's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Drew Shannon, your favorite ring announcer's favorite ring announcer in 814 Wrestling, HWF, and 247 Fighting Championships. You can also hear me on Key 93.7 The Keys Yacht Rock Station and Party 105.7 The Keys Party Station in Key West. But I'm a Pennsylvania boy through and through, and you are listening to Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling Podcast. And if you're not, who the hell am I talking to right now?